My name is John Trelevin. I had the privilege of spending 32 years as an officer in the Canadian Trade Commissioner Service, the oldest trade service in the world. I followed that with 5 years working with the Saskatchewan Trade and Export Partnership as the CEO. I've dealt and assisted hundreds of Canadian companies in a variety of markets around the world. And I was asked some time ago by the International Trade Center in Geneva, which is a UN agency, to write a paper on my experiences. The intermediation between public investment in risk mitigation for Canadian exporters, for exporters generally, and the marketplace. What follows is an AI interpretation of a paper I wrote some time ago. And just to clarify for those of you who watch this video, I encourage you to do so, of course. The language is about trade promotion organizations. I'm talking about the Canadian Trade Commissioner Service, and I'm bringing in the lessons of the Saskatchewan Trade and Export Partnership, which in my view is the best trade promotion organization in the world. Canadian exporters have the benefit of significant, effective, ongoing assistance and risk mitigation from various Canadian government and provincial government sources. One of the keys to export diversification, market diversification, which is on everybody's lips today, is be sure to utilize the services that are at your service, the institutions, the talented professionals. In the case of the Trade Commissioner Service, in 150 posts around the world, you've got Canadians who will do what you need doing to get into those markets. My paper and the AI interpretation of it that follows is simply a discussion of the best way for those resources to be put at your command.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to try and rewire the way you look at the world.
That's a bold claim.
It is a bold claim. But specifically, how the money in your pocket, the money in your country's pocket actually gets there. We are pulling back the curtain on the engine room of the global economy.
And it's an engine room that, frankly, most people don't even know exists. Or if they do, they just think it's, boring paperwork.
Exactly. But it's actually where the rubber meets the road for national prosperity.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk past products every day, made in China, made in Germany, made in Vietnam, and you just see the object. You don't see the massive, invisible machine that got it there.
And that machine is what we're talking about today. Export strategy and this specific, often misunderstood thing called the TPO, the Trade Promotion Organization.
Which, I have to admit, sounds like the driest possible topic we could choose.
It really does. It sounds like a meeting you'd fall asleep in.
Totally. But when you dig into our source material for today, you realize this isn't about bureaucracy at all. It's about survival. It's about the difference between a wealthy nation and a stagnant one.
It really is. Our source is an ITC position paper. It's called Innovations in Export Strategy, written by John Trelevin back in 2006.
Okay, 2006. So before you tune out thinking that's ancient history.
Pre-iPhone, pre-Uber.
Right. But the fascinating thing about this document, and why we chose it, is that it argues the fundamental rules of this game, they haven't changed in over a century.
That's the whole point. He presents this as a universal blueprint. It doesn't matter if you're in 1894 or, 2026. The mechanics are surprisingly constant.
And he starts with a premise that, I have to say, it feels like a slap in the face to most modern political messaging.
Oh, absolutely. I highlighted this immediately. It's so counter-narrative.
He just comes out swinging. The paper asserts governments cannot create jobs.
Right.
Companies do not create jobs. Only customers create jobs.
That just stops you in your tracks, doesn't it? Because every election cycle in every country, all we hear is, I will create 10,000 jobs.
This factory will create 500 jobs. But according to this, that's technically impossible.
It's a great slogan, but it's economically backwards. And Trelevin is, he's ruthless about this. He just strips away all the fluff. If you hire someone, but you don't have a customer to pay for their work, you haven't created a job.
You've created liability.
You've created an expense, exactly. If nobody buys the widget, the guy making the widget isn't an employee, he's a drain on the budget.
Yeah.
The customer is the only true source of employment.
Okay, so if we accept that, if the customer is the origin of all economic activity, then we have to radically rethink the role of government, right?
Completely.
So what's a trade promotion organization even for? If the government can't create the wealth of the jobs, What are they doing?
And that is the tension at the heart of this paper. The source draws this really hard line between wealth creation and wealth spending.
We confuse them all the time.
All the time. Building a hospital, paving a road, funding a school, that is wealth spending.
Which is necessary stuff. We need hospitals.
Absolutely. It's vital. But it consumes resources. It doesn't generate new money. Wealth creation only happens when the private sector takes a risk, makes something, and then finds a customer willing to pay for it.
So the government isn't the driver of the car.
No. The government is maybe the pit crew or the road maintenance team. Their role is strictly environmental. They provide education, infrastructure, a legal system, so your contracts mean something.
But they can't force a customer in Japan to buy your Canadian lumber.
No, and there's a line in the text I loved. It says, "Never in the history of any successful business did the board of directors instruct the CEO to hire people."
It's so good. It sounds absurd when you say it like that. Go hire 50 people. We'll figure out what to do with them later.
Never happens. You hire people because you are overwhelmed by customer demand. It's a chain reaction. Customer wants something, company hires staff to deliver it, a job is created. The end.
Okay, so the goal of any national strategy has to be find customers. But the scale of that challenge has changed. The paper talks about the global village.
Yeah, and this is where the internet comes in and just complicates everything. In the old days, finding a customer in France, if you were a seller in Brazil, was a huge task. You needed all these middlemen.
Layers and layers of people taking a cut.
Exactly. And the source talks about disintermediation. It's just a fancy word for cutting out the middleman.
The internet let buyers and sellers find each other directly.
Which sounds great for business, but it creates an existential crisis for the government agency, doesn't it?
Yeah, if I'm a shoe manufacturer in Italy and I can just Google a leather supplier in Argentina, why do I need the trade promotion organization? What's its purpose?
That is the multi-million-dollar question. And Treleaven argues the TPO has to completely transform. It has to stop acting like a government bureau and start acting like a high-end management consultant.
A consultant. That's a very different vibe from a civil servant.
It is. A bureaucrat pushes paper. A consultant chases results. The paper defines the new core function with 3 words: identify, qualify, and motivate.
Okay, let's break that down. Identify.
That's not just saying, oh, people in Germany like cheese. It's saying this specific supermarket chain in Munich is actively looking for cheddar right now. It's specific.
And qualify.
That's the most important one. It means checking if they're serious. Do they actually have the money? Will they waste your time? A small business can go bankrupt chasing a deal that isn't real. The TPO's job is to vet them.
And motivate.
That's the sales pitch. It's you, as the TPO, advocating for your team, for your country's suppliers.
That sounds pretty aggressive for a government body.
It is. It's matchmaking with very high stakes.
Yeah.
And to do it well, you have to stop doing something governments absolutely love to do.
Let me guess. Picking winners.
Picking winners. The priority sectors debate. Every government has a Vision 2030 plan where they've decided we're going to be world leaders in biotech.
Or green hydrogen or AI, whatever's on the cover of a magazine this month.
Exactly. The source calls this the picking winners fallacy. It asks a simple question. How can a government official in an office possibly know which product will take off next year?
They can't. They're not in the market. They have no skin in the game.
They're non-market forces. They're guessing. So the paper argues, instead of picking sectors, let the private sector decide where the opportunity is.
So if a company making, I don't know, artisanal, hand-painted birdhouses finds a huge market in South Korea, the TPO should back them.
Yes. Even if birdhouses wasn't in the 5-year strategic plan, if the customer's there, the support should be there.
That requires a lot of humility from the government.
It does. And it leads to probably the most controversial recommendation in the whole text. The membership model.
Oh, I stopped on this one. The source suggests these government agencies should charge money for their services, fee for service.
I know. Your first reaction is, wait, I pay taxes. Why should I pay you again to do your job? But think about the psychology. If a government service is free, how do you treat it?
Like a pamphlet you pick up. I probably won't read it. I certainly won't base my business strategy on it.
And how does the official treat you? You're a beneficiary, a statistic. But the moment you write a check, the dynamic changes. You become a client.
And if I'm a client, I have expectations. I can complain if the service is bad.
You demand value. If the TPO charges a fee, they are forced to deliver something worth paying for. If they give garbage advice, you cancel your membership. It's a mechanism to kill incompetence.
That's brutal, but effective.
Hmm.
If you can't sell your advice for $500, maybe it's not worth giving.
Exactly, and this connects directly to the hierarchy of information. The paper has this great pyramid visual.
I do love a good pyramid chart.
So at the bottom, the wide base, you have things like general economic trends, government program lists, that kind of thing.
The stuff you could find on Wikipedia in 5 minutes.
Right. The source calls it nice to have or not necessary. But as you go up the pyramid, the information gets more specific. And at the very top,
The good stuff.
sales leads, direct competitor pricing, the name of the purchasing manager, the survival intel.
The stuff that actually get the deal signed.
And here's the disconnect. Most government agencies spend 90% of their time producing the bottom of the pyramid. Why?
Because it's easy.
Because it's easy. You can copy-paste GDP stats. Finding out who the purchasing manager at BMW is, that takes a phone call. That's hard work. And the paper is adamant. Generic info is useless. It actually says reports should be short, strategic, destined only to the inquiring company, and never posted on a website.
The never was in all caps. That seems so counter to the whole open data movement.
Because in business, transparency can destroy your advantage. If a report on opportunities in Brazil is public, my competitor has it too. I need the intel they don't have.
Okay, so we have this transformed TPO. They're consultants, they charge fees, they hunt for secret intel. But they still have this massive problem. They're invisible.
This is the political trap. We see the result of wealth spending. You drive on the new road, you see the new school, you vote for the politician who cut the ribbon.
But you don't see the export contract that brought the money into the country to pay for that road.
No. Trade is abstract. It's shipping containers and bank transfers. The source calls this challenge number 1. Because exports are invisible to the voter, TPOs struggle to get funding.
So how do they justify their budgets? I imagine there's a huge temptation to embellish.
Lies, damn lies, and statistics. The source warns against this macrometric trap. An agency will claim, every $1 billion in exports creates 11,000 jobs, therefore we created 11,000 jobs.
But you can't prove your one meeting caused that $1 billion.
Of course not. It's correlation, not causation. The paper says stop trying to claim credit for the whole economy. Measure what you actually did.
So what are the better metrics?
Deliverables. Tangible stuff. Did you hand over 5 qualified leads? Did you save a company from making a huge mistake?
The negative success.
Yeah.
Saving someone from a disaster.
Huge value. And the ultimate metric, client retention. Did they pay their membership fee again next year? If yes, you provided value. Simple.
Okay, so we have the strategy, we have the metrics, but you can't do this alone. The paper introduces this idea of border in versus border out.
This is critical. Border out is the sexy part. The embassies in Paris and Tokyo, the cocktail parties.
The Ferrero Rocher diplomacy.
Right. But border in is the domestic network. It's the connection between that guy in Paris and the actual factory floor in Ohio. And the source argues that border in is usually the broken link.
Because the person in Paris doesn't actually know what the factory in Ohio can make.
Or they send a hot lead and it gets lost in a bureaucratic maze in the capital. If those two sides aren't synchronized, the whole system fails.
To show how this should work, the source tells the story of the Boeing 777, the working together jet.
It's a fascinating case study. I mean, this was a monster project. 25,000 people, 13 countries, 545 suppliers. And it was the first plane designed entirely on computers.
No paper blueprints.
None. And they had this incredibly specific target for weight. American Airlines said, if it's 1 pound over, we don't want it.
Imagine trying to coordinate 545 companies to hit a weight target to the kilogram.
It sounds impossible, but they did it. The first plane rolled out 35 kilograms underweight. How? Because everyone shared the same data in real time. Everyone knew the target.
And the burn here is, if Boeing can coordinate all of that to build a jet, surely a government can get the Ministry of Trade to talk to the Ministry of Industry.
You'd think so. But in government, you don't have a commercial contract binding you. You have turf wars, silos.
The paper mentions the Team Canada approach from the 90s as a way to fix this.
Right, under Prime Minister Jean Chrétien. The key quote wasn't about the big overseas missions. Chrétien said, if Team Canada can work in Beijing, it must be made to work equally well in Burnaby.
Burnaby being a local suburb.
Exactly. Does the local mayor talk to the Federal Trade Commissioner? Does the border-in network actually function? It takes leadership to drag those silos together.
It's a shared vision.
A shared vision. The TPO has to be the conductor of the orchestra.
We've covered a lot of modern ideas here. The internet, jets, consulting models. But the source ends with this twist I really liked. It goes back in time.
Way back to 1894.
Meet John Lark, Canada's first ever trade commissioner. He gets posted to Sydney, Australia.
Just picture it, 1894, no email, no telephone to call home. He gets on a steamship for weeks. He's completely on his own.
And the source lists his instructions from the government. And when you read them today, it's kind of spooky.
It really is. Instruction 1, report names of firms dealing in products Canada makes. Instruction 2, pass names of Canadian firms to Australian dealers. Instruction 4, report on demand.
It's so simple. Report on demand.
It's the eternal truth of commerce. The source calls this the aha moment. We get obsessed with AI and blockchain and whatever's next, but the fundamental need of a business has not changed by 1 millimeter since 1894.
They still just want to know, who will buy my stuff?
That's it. That is the only question that matters. John Lark was a human search engine. Today's TPO is a digital search engine plus a consultant, but the mission is identical.
It's really grounding, isn't it? It just cuts through all the high-level economic theory.
And that really synthesizes this whole deep dive. A national export strategy isn't about some 300-page document that sits on a shelf.
It's about the gritty, day-to-day work of connecting a seller to a buyer.
It's friction reduction. If a TPO can actually save an exporter time or reduce their risk, then they are a part of the wealth creation engine.
And maybe that's the takeaway for us as citizens. We started by talking about the invisible engine.
Yeah, and it's the great paradox of our politics. We will fight passionately about how to spend money. Healthcare, education, defense will scream at each other over 1% of the budget.
But we rarely have a serious public debate about how we make that money in the first place.
We just take the engine for granted. We assume the wealth will just appear. But this paper shows it doesn't. It's created by risk takers finding customers.
And if you take the engine for granted for too long, you eventually forget to change the oil.
And then the engine seizes up, and suddenly you can't pay for the hospital anymore.
So here's our challenge to you. The next time you pick up a product, your phone, your coffee cup, whatever, look at the Made In label. Don't just see a country name. Try to see that invisible network. Somewhere, a risk taker started a business. Somewhere, a connection was made. And maybe, just maybe, a TPO helped bridge that gap.
And remember, nothing happened, absolutely nothing, until a customer somewhere decided to buy it.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you on the next one.